Okay, once again, a warm welcome to this collaborative monthly technical lecture. And very quickly, I want to confirm you can hear me. If you can hear me, kindly drop some chats in the chat box if you can hear me. Kindly drop some chats in the chat box if you can hear me. Confirm you can hear me. Okay, amazing. So you're welcome to this monthly technical lecture. Like I said earlier on, it's a collaboration and a partnership between Emmanuel Bogan Foundation and the Society of Petroleum Engineers Abuja section. Of course, this webinar is on the theme, the Petroleum Industry Act implementation, balancing the petroleum sector quadrilemma in Nigeria. It's going to be a very interesting and engaging one. And of course, today we'll be so excited to have one of our heroes in the energy industry speak to us on the theme for today. Okay, we sincerely apologize for that break in transmission. So of course, SP Abuja section is excited and delighted to have you here. Very quickly, I would like us to have a view of the agenda for today. And of course, this webinar is going to last for an hour and 30 minutes. Of course, the Society of Petroleum Engineers is very particular about safety. And very quickly, I will take a few safety announcements. Of course, the very important is that if you are not speaking, kindly endeavor to allow your microphone on mute so as not to interfere with today's event. Of course, we have the chat button. So should you have any comments or questions, kindly make use of the chat button. We also advise that you should ensure you can still hear the fire alarm with your headset if you are home or you are in a public facility. And of course, the very next is kindly endeavor not to carry your device to the kitchen so as not to cause an explosion. Of course, we believe that if we take particular attention to the fuel safety brief, which is on our screen, of course, we would finish this event in a very safe environment. Very quickly, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to quickly recognize some very distinguished personalities that have joined us here this afternoon. I'll start by saying a warm welcome to the section chair of the Society of Petroleum Engineers Abuja section. I speak of Engineer Amina Denbadami. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. We'd love to hear your voice, ma'am.
Thank you, Akman. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. Of course, still here, we have our speaker for today. Of course, I call him a man of capacity, a walking encyclopedia. I speak of a professor and GNPC chair in Petroleum Economics and the Management Institute of Cape Coast, Ghana, Professor Wumi Eledare. One welcome to you, sir, and thank you for joining us here today, sir. Professor Wumi, as speaker, would like to confirm your audio is okay and you can hear us. Welcome, sir. Your mic is muted, just in case you're trying to speak. Okay, still here while Professor tries to. Okay, Professor, please, sir. Warm welcome to you, sir. We can see your video, sir. Your audio is what's left. Okay, probably when you can fix your video, your audio, we would hear you. We'd also like to say a warm welcome to the moderator for today. I speak of a principal petroleum engineer and a technical assistant, gas business development and investment, Ministry of Petroleum Resources. I speak of Engineer Abdurafi Egbeyemi. Warm welcome to you, sir. We'd like to hear your voice and confirm you can hear us.
Yeah, thank you, Akman. Thank you for having me, SP Abuja.
Okay, and still in this webinar, still in this meeting, we have the Emmanuel Egbogan Chair of Petroleum Engineering University of Port Harcourt. I speak of Professor Joseph Ajenka. One welcome to you, sir. Please confirm you can hear us.
Thank you very much. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, of course. And the last but not the least, we also have in this meeting the manager, Emmanuel Egbogan Foundation. I speak of Dr. Susan Fubara. One welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Akpan.
Okay, of course, I know that we have several distinguished personalities who have joined in this meeting. We have Professor Chidibe here online. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. I can see so many names online from different parts of Nigeria. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Time may not permit me to go recognizing each after the other, but we want to say thank you and thank you for joining us. Very distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, of course, still here, we have a former zonal controller of the Department of Petroleum Resources. I speak of Alhaji Abba Misau. A warm welcome to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We also say a warm welcome to the Executive Director, Economic Regulations and Strategic Planning of the NMDPRA. I speak of Dr. Zainab Gobil. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Thank you, and thank you. I'm Asmao Salisu. Thank you, and thank you for your comments. Professor Wumi Ledare, once again, you want to confirm you can hear us and you can speak.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir. Loud and clear, sir. Loud and clear. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, we'd like to kickstart this event by having a welcome address by our amiable section chair of SP Abuja section. This juncture, I'd love to most respectfully request Madam Amina Dami for her welcome address. Ma'am, the virtual stage is yours.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure and great honor to, on behalf of SP Abuja and the Emmanuel Eboga Foundation, welcome you here today. We're delighted to have you participate in this very important technical session. We bring this in line with SP's commitment to providing valuable knowledge and services to its members, industry, and community at large. The topic today is Petroleum Industry Act implementation, balancing the petroleum sector quadrilemma in Nigeria. Conversations about the PIA remain one of the most important discourses in the Nigerian energy space today, partly because of the evolution of the energy space since its inception, and mostly because of the state of the energy sector when it was enacted. Energy transition and the current state of geopolitics globally at the stage of implementing a landmark piece of energy legislation for the largest economy on the continent necessitates the participation of all stakeholders to ensure that the law addresses the immediate potential future challenges of the petroleum industry in Nigeria. Section 2 of the PIA clearly outlines the objective of the law, which includes the creation of efficient and effective governance institutions with clear and separate rules for the petroleum industry. You will agree with me that the effectiveness of the governance tripod is key to achieving a sustainable and progressive petroleum sector in Nigeria. Our guest lecturer, Professor Wumi Eledare, is no stranger to this subject. In fact, he's my mentor and a mentor to many people on this call and in Nigeria and abroad. And I have no doubt in his confidence to deconstruct this subject and provide a refreshing approach to ensuring effective performance by the institutions saddled with the responsibility of implementing the provisions of the PIA. My profound gratitude goes to Professor Eledare for giving us time out of his busy schedule to share from his wealth of knowledge and experience of the subject, the Abuja section, the Emmanuel Eboga Foundation for putting this together, and everyone for making out time from their busy schedule to participate in this meeting. I would also especially want to thank Nigeria Midstream Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, and most especially the ED of Economic Regulation and Strategic Planning for making time to attend this program. And I would like to thank my former boss and mentor, Alhaji Abba, for always being supportive and always participating in our programs. I wish us all fruitful deliberation that will lead to actionable actions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Section Chair, for that amazing remark. Your Excellencies, very distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be switching gears immediately to have an opening remark by the Emmanuel Ebogan Chair of Petroleum Engineering University of Port Harcourt. I speak of Professor Joseph Ajenka. So please, the future stages, yes. I want to confirm, have we lost Professor Joseph? Okay. Section Chair, since we've lost Professor Joseph.
Okay. Oh.
Okay. So since we have Dr. Susan Fubara, who is the manager of Emmanuel Ebogan Foundation,
yes,
ma'am, would like you to kindly step in for Professor Joseph.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
I want to join my voice with that of the chair of SP Abuja section to welcome everybody to this webinar. We are actually delighted at the Emmanuel Eboga Foundation to be collaborating with SP on this particular subject matter. And it's even our honor and delight that our managing director, the director of the foundation, is the one delivering the lecture. Already from the speech of Madam Amina, we already know how knowledgeable he is in this field, and would like to wish you all a peaceful deliberation and a nice and have like an interactive time. Unfortunately, I wasn't prepared to give a speech. That was supposed to be Professor Jenka, but I hope this suffices. You could go through. There's actually a program that actually states what to do at the foundation. We'll not get into that. That we can actually just go straight into the lecture for today. So thank you, SP Nigeria Abuja section, for collaborating with the foundation on this particular lecture. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we have been waiting for has just arrived. We are about to start this, and to handle the entire session, we have a moderator who will handle both the question and the answers, and of course, do justice. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, I speak of the principal partner engineer and technical assistant, gas business development and investment, Ministry of Petroleum Resources. Our moderator for today, ladies and gentlemen, Abdurafi Egbeyemi. So please, you can take charge.
Okay. Good afternoon. Please, can you confirm that you can hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. Thank you, Aqua, and thank you, SP Abuja section. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for making out time from your busy schedules to join us today on this very important conversation. I want to start by thanking the SP Abuja section for giving me the opportunity to moderate such an important conversation. The petroleum climate conversation has taken prominence in recent times and has brought to fore the need for energy policies to address the energy dilemma, trilemma, and the quadrilemma, of course, which is at the heart of today's discourse. Situating this quadrilemma within the implementation of the Petroleum Industry Act, which was enacted on the 16th of August 2021, is very timely as it emphasizes an unwritten key performance indicator for this landmark piece of legislation. The policy and regulations developed pursuant to this legislation must be deployed to address the energy quadrilemma in Nigeria, such that petroleum is available, accessible, affordable, and delivered in a just and sustainable manner under two principal tenets of macro justice, which is to ensure that fair and just institutional decisions are made, and micro justice to ensure that we monitor the impact of this systemic outcome. Bringing all of this into the context of our energy aspirations as a nation is a beautiful discussion to have at this time. And I believe there's no better person to deliver this presentation than the living legend himself, a mentor to many of us, and a man that is not afraid to say it as it is, in the person of Professor Omowumi Iledare, who is a professor and GMPC chair in Petroleum Economics Management, Institute of Gas Studies, University of Cape Coast. Professor Iledare has over 35 years of technical, professional, and academic experience in the global oil and gas industry, and currently serves as Ghana's National Petroleum Corporation Chair in Oil and Gas Studies at the University of Cape Coast, Oil and Gas Institute in Ghana. He is also the Executive Director of the Emmanuel Iboga Foundation for Petroleum Industry Economics and Policy Advocacy here in Abuja, Nigeria. He's published several articles on upstream oil and gas economics and policy in SPE1 Petro, and he ranks among the top 500 Scopus authors in Nigeria between 2014 and 2019. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to yield the floor to Professor Omowumi Iledare. Kindly note that your questions can be sent to the chat box, or we can wait to the end of its presentation, and we'll take question and answers by raising of hands virtually. Thank you so much, and I yield the floor to Professor Iledare.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this invitation. For the two organizations hosting this webinar are very dear to my heart. I was fortunate to have served as SPE Student Chapter President in 1978, 1979. I was also loved by the director of SPE African Region of the Society of Petroleum. In fact, that I'm in Africa today is because of SPE Nigerian Council system for my SPE continuously since 1999. So I sincerely acknowledge Chairman of the Council, the SPE Chairman of the Board of Directors or Board of Trustees. And I want to thank all my students. It was mentioned that I was among the 5 scopers. It is because of the Master of Science in Petroleum Economics and about 25 PhDs in petroleum economics that we had the opportunity to attend. I thank all of my friends, even in this association for the International Association for Energy Economics, the Nigerian affiliate. Thank you very much. Let me make a disclaimer. The disclaimer is that whatever I say on this webinar is my personal perspective. And please do not hold my organization's liable. And if I somehow misspoke or made a mistake, please forgive me. It's a mistake of the head and not of the heart. I want to continue to congratulate Nigeria on the potential that they have, potential they represent. That's one of the reasons why some of us keep speaking, because we want the oil and gas industry, the engine that will propel our economy with potential, continue to be effective. Then I have about 30 minutes, so I've already pledged not to be over too passionate as I'm doing this. I'm going to have some preamble, and that will lead me to know that TIA 2021 has become inevitable. And we must be really happy that at least we signed the law. Then I'll quickly talk about the scope, the essence, and the core principles underlying the TIA. And then I will talk about the Quadrilemma dimensions of the petroleum sector. I think TIA is designed to be able to navigate through and balance it in a strategic way rather than in an ad hoc manner. And then I'll give my summary and conclusion. I'll certainly let you know what my opinion is thus far and what I think needs to be done going forward. And please, this is not, whatever I say is not to undermine anybody, but to find a way to make sure that we keep posterity in view and be aware that prosperity without posterity is inconsequential. And that's the basis of my always wanting to talk, because the future matters. And it is in our hand today to make sure that the oil and gas industry is efficient, effective, equitable, and ethically administered. So basically, what are my preamble? Nigeria ranked in 2021 among the 20 top oil and gas producers. And in 2021, we produced approximately 1.5, 1.7 million barrels per day. As at the end of 2020, we had about 36 billion barrels of reserve and about 208 billion cubic feet of gas. Nigeria ranked, however, in 2005 among the top 10 producers, and were producing about 2 million barrels per day on average, and about 35 billion petroleum reserves. The production, and then the projection then in 2005 was $40 billion, with the capacity of 3 million barrels per day by 2010. 2010 came and left. And now, the nation of promise is Nigeria. Nigeria in 2004 was the bride nation and most coveted petroleum development bride in the Gulf of Guinea. The potential for 4 billion barrels of oil in reserves and about 4 million barrels per day capacity was kept in view. What happened to this promise bride? What happened in this our promised land? Our potential was unparalleled. And even now, we are just so these laudable ambitions of the 1970s, 1980s just disappeared. And forgive me to insinuate that it's probably because of what I call petrodollar craziness, political expediency, and my favorable word to describe that sector, tribalism. It is not tribalism, it is not nepotism, because tribalism is more or less a club of like-minded people who only think that they deserve what belongs to them. And we saw it play out over the last few days. What petrodollars can do to an economy, what political expediency can do to an economy, and what tribalism can do to an economy. Regrettably, then, political expediency lean towards the trumping of economic efficacy, and the consequences are manifested more often than not in form of what I call the quadrilemma of the industry: inefficiency, ineffectiveness, inequity, and indecency. That's why we call it immorality. So basically then, all of this made the EIA 2021 inevitable. It became unnecessary. It's just something we couldn't afford. We couldn't avoid reforming, restructuring, rebranding the industry in a way that austerity becomes more of the focus. Look at before PIA 2021 and up till now, declining production, price volatility, revenue shortfalls, leakages, declining reserves. With respect to investment, we couldn't attract funds. There's political and forex uncertainty. There's no attractive commercial framework. There's no competitive fiscal terms, and there were infrastructure deficits. These are what necessitated the development of petroleum. Yes, it took us 20 years, from 2000 to 2021. I was not a stranger. In fact, the first oil and gas policy committee report, I evaluated, opposed certain things that were and were documented and published. And when you look at the systems, structures, the people, and the tools, there are governance gap before PIA, delivery capacity became unattainable, transparency and efficiency were thrown to the back, and technical capacity was depreciated. Therefore, the need for industry reform, competitive market structure, removing cost subsidization, and enhancing participation in the industry with efficient, effective, equitable, and ethical distribution of revenue became so important. Then came the result, what I call suboptimal industry performance indicators. You can see the declining trend. You can see oil production was declining, balance sheet, high cost, low value barrels. Nigeria slipped out of the top 10, loss of market shares, serious funding gaps, country increasingly losing competitiveness. We used to be the pride. Oh, when I was a petroleum engineer in the 80s, we have more than 20 drilling rigs. 16 of us graduated from the industry. All of us were engaged in the oil and gas industry. What happened? Then you can see, I hope you can see my graphs. You can see the declining trend. We let go of where resources are. Look at the production as coming from production sharing contract. Joint venture production is declining. Gas reserves by contract category. And the implication of depending on deep water or revenue is varying. Therefore, the PIA 2021 came, in my opinion, at the right. And the scope are well articulated, provide the best possible economic outcome for all stakeholders, the investors, the government, ensure optimal utilization of infrastructure, ensure operations is managed in a safe environmental, satisfy today and ensure sufficient savings for the remaining days, intergenerational consideration matters. The PIA was looking at efficient, effective, equitable management of petroleum resources, looking at the legal framework, the governance and institution, the fiscal framework, sustainable development. Unfortunately, the PIA framers shied away from revenue management solution. And that should be our next target. Managing petroleum revenue is key. Ghana did it and did it well. And they have not been rested in their hour, where petroleum revenue is dedicated for infrastructure development, education of the mind, and priority projects that the intergenerational kids will benefit from. That to me is the next act that the National Assembly that will be coming in 2023 must take the bull by the horn and do something about revenue management solution. What are the core principles? One, remove uncertainty due to protracted overhaul of the legal system. Establish good governance, competitiveness, global best practice, ease of doing business. And you must pay attention to government access to revenue, ensure fairness in reward distribution, and make sure that the industry opens for competition, for predictability, best practice, and sustainability. I said all of this because, in my opinion, the implementer of the PIA must be conscious of the scope, the essence, the core principles, and the expectations. I must confess to you, I don't see it yet. And that bothers me. Perhaps because I've extended so much of my energy on this PIB since 2000. I've taught it, I've taken legislators to places to make sure they understand that the industry has 4 components. 1, the governance. 2, licensing and administration. 3, fiscal framework. 4, petroleum host community. That was the key components of the PIB. And as those who will implement it pay attention to those 4 quadrilemma, I decided to use positive words so that they can know what they need to balance in the implementation. 1 component, governance structure. The separation of regulatory body from policy body and commercial institution. The implementers must pay attention to this, and the CEO of these 3 critical institutions upon which the PIA anchors. The PIA anchors its hopes and expectation. That separation is very critical. We cannot go back to the amorphous regulatory approach and management approach for now. And you're going to see my conclusion. What I think you must pay attention to. Licensing, management, and administration. We see that the PIA vows what I call discretionary award of licenses, be it upstream, midstream, and downstream. The fact that we have so many petrol stations must be of great concern because of the way the licensing of petrol station is being discussed. This institution moves by the arm and understand 4 key things to pay attention to. And by the way, among the 4, there's no prosperity in it. The trust fund is critical. And the PIA said it clearly. And of course, the fiscal framework, flexible, effective, attractive, competitive, quite a necessity to sustain oil and gas output. So now let me come to the subject matter, which is the PIA implementation. See, the framers use conceptual framework. And forgive me, there are certain things I don't like, PIA, especially the fiscal system. More so because the conceptual framework was undermined based on politics and not using your own. Nigeria must begin to believe their own experts who understand the system and move away from linearizing foreign models without adjusting the assumption underlying those foreign models. And I'll talk to that in time. And what I want to say at this time is the implementers must hold on to the conceptual framework, and it demands what I call strategic thinking beyond the business as usual approach. Don't let us not understand the conceptual framework. I plead with the Commission Board of Directors, the Commercial Board of Directors, and the Authority Board of Directors not to move away from the conceptual framework of the Petroleum Industry Act. This business as usual approach is not going to take us to the promised land. And in the implementation, I plead with the management teams of these institutions to always keep in mind the goals and deliverables of the PIA. The structured, branded, and rekindled institutions. And that's why you have the separation of roles. Then value creation, management of pieces, and the administration of it. Both community inclusiveness, realization of community development, transparency, and equity. So what are these Quadrilemma dimensions critical to PIA delivering objectives? You forgive me for using this word Quadrilemma. You know, people are familiar with trilemma, dilemma, and quite often you use these from a negative point of view. I decided to emphasize the positive. And what I meant by quadrilemma is simply a situation in which an agent must strategically balance four important goals in order to optimize the desired outcome. Sense. And basically what I'm trying to say, back to these deliverables. If we are going to have a restructured, branded, and into institutions, then efficiency, effectiveness, equity, and ethics are very critical. And they must be delivered at these three institutions that PIA established. Study everything anchors on these institutions. And that's see my frustration with respect to what I see at this particular time. So my quadrilemma, equity, effectiveness, ethics, and efficiency. Combination of these four will take us to that promised land. But we need certain steps to be taken. And very important. Let's look at efficiency dimension of this quadrilemma. What is efficiency? For the purpose of this conversation simply means doing things right with zero wastage, minimal conceivable cost. This is a problem in the petroleum sector in Nigeria. PIA has made efforts to address it, and it becomes an important tool for the management team of these three institutions to pay attention to. Whatever is wastage, don't do it. An example is that Otto would punch for your meetings instead of Dubai. Sorry about it. I still want you to come to Ghana, right? Efficiency is about speed, quality, and cost. But the speed was being the right direction. Do I like the fact that the PIA was signed, but I do not like the way in which the implementation started. It was done too much in a hurry without properly doing certain things that hurt. The Act actually has a provision that I encourage the Petroleum Commission, the Petroleum Authority to pay attention to. You can see the provision in the PIA efficiency. 1, price-cost ratio. 2, setting deductible capital allowance limit. High tax incentives to output. Accountability and transparency is one of the core objectives of the industry reform from day one, because there was thinking that the upstream sector is too opaque. And that's why from day one, from 2000, transparency and accountability is key. And that is one of the ways to promote efficiency. Again, the efficiency component of the Quadrilemma demands a transition team to have been responsible for resource mapping and allocation into institutions. Right now, what extent is the transition possible to mapping out who will be where, when, and how? And this will require educating, guiding, and executing. It's supposed to have been the transition team that does the mapping. Can still correct that. Because everything about efficiency begins with manpower deployment and development. Effectiveness dimension of this. In a generic sense, effectiveness implies doing the right things without compromising doing things the right way. We are talking in terms of strategy, ideas, quality, progress, competence, process, teamwork, and management. No, the hierarchical approach to governance disappear. Yes, the box top the CEO, but the CEO must come to terms that every member of that commission is first among equal. I know I ran into trouble saying that in the University of Port Harcourt several years ago, and I was never forgiven until the leader recognized that either of his team members could have been him. And that's what PIA calls for. But if we look at the PIA qualification to be a member of the board of each of these three institutions, study it. Any of those members could have been the CEO, and that would have brought respect and effectiveness. Good. Effectiveness dimension of the Quadrilemma, if doing things right, if doing the right things without compromising doing things right is key to oil and gas futures as anticipated by PIA framers. And I happen to be one of them. Forgive me, I'm behaving like Paul now. Huh? I'm behaving like Paul in the scripture. Who, no, it's true. The framers have in mind for each of these institutions a transformational leader, not transactional. And I pray to God that Nigeria will, in 2023, elect a transformational leader, irrespective of where it comes from, because a transformational leader leverage on emotional intelligence. Their strategic relations is not do me one, I do you one. No, that will not help us. So the board members must have a transformational leadership concept. The PIA is to take us to the promised land. We must be of leaders who have what we call shared vision. And understand that when they are gone, there's Kupolokun today. Where's Lukman? Where's Eboga? There are all of those things of God. They're gone. I'm not saying they are dead. I'm only saying that they don't even say much. So if you are there at this particular time, think about what I'm telling you. Prosperity without posterity view is inconsequential. Listen, for me, I've run the race. I have a lot of my people who have my way of thinking. Nearly 100 people with science degree. I'm doing the same thing here now in Ghana. That when I'm done, they will continue to have the mindset that being a transformational leader is ingrained in translating strategy to action. Leadership is not position. Leadership is action. You develop people's capability and are not threatened when you're, listen, all my students, they have idea, I put them in the table. My kids, surrender the leadership concept to shared vision. Third component of the quadrilemma that the implementers must pay attention to is equity. Section 2D of part 1 in chapter 1 states, as an objective for the fostering of a business environment conducive for petroleum operations in Nigeria, equity, fairness. You can see the plugging of everybody has a chance. The short one has to stand on the higher. So you have to create an environment as an implementer of this PIP to drive home equity. Don't create something that makes the other person unfair. Well, I don't want to dwell in recommendations about the northern government, but that doesn't necessarily mean the APS will win, it could still be somebody, but at least they follow the principle. That is what implementers of PIA must think about. Is what I'm doing equitable? If it is not, consequences on posterity. The equity concern is critical commercialization framework, National Petroleum Company. Constitution matter. Until the constitution is changed, people are not thinking, what will NMPC Limited come when they took control of the JV assets and only declare dividend? And this is where transparency and accountability is part and parcel of being equitable. Even the investment and acquisition of assets. I see some comments I did not like recently. And I just wonder what key players in the industry are paying attention to the provisions of the PIA we are doing. Is there really, because we look at the PIA and look at the objective is not that NMPC is commercialized. The objective is that the PIA will create a framework for NMPC commercialization. Was the framework developed before all of these activities are being done. If you don't have a good foundation for the commercialization of NMPC, we are back to square one. And that's why I asked the question, for example, somebody told me that I have a big mouth. I saw somewhere where NMPC Limited says that McKinsey, PwC, and somebody people want to advise. And I say, the same people advising you when you are NMPC on 100% government, advising you when you are CAMA registered. So listen, the creation of the framework for the commercialization of NMPC is critical. Otherwise, we're just back to square one. And now we have impact on equity with revenue distribution, divestment of assets, resource depletion, and reserves replacement. Because 90% of resources, petroleum resources in Nigeria is going to be under the supervision of NMPC. Believe me. Believe me. That's the average for national companies worldwide. And finally, really, the ethical component of the Quadrilemma is key. Petroleum business across the value chain in Nigeria has moral obligations to safeguard ethical behavior in business decisions. Do we have it now? No. What are the principles? Respect for human dignity, human rights, and social justice. Fairness, transparency, honesty, no discrimination, accountability, and responsibility. IA is very mindful of the importance of ethics, and you can see it in section 2C, part 1 of chapter 1, where PIA says one of its 5 core objectives, notion of transparency, accountability, and good governance. Every objective stated there is anchored on this key objective. When you talk about transparency, you think in terms of easy access to information. Even when they are proprietary, just make people sign that they will not divulge it. Accountability is taking responsibility for your action. In fact, I sent a saying to my a man or woman of honor regrets an indescribable act, even if it works. That is, if you're a man of honor, you did something that worked, that is not something you are proud of. So it's not about the end justifies the means. The means must be honorable, irrespective of what the end is. And that is, the PIA is a solid document. Of course, there are some doctoring, because you find out that the government representatives became deceived on the basis of energy transition and COVID-19. And they went and looked at the fiscal framework and doctor it. Thereby, there are 3 tranches for onshore, 3 tranches for shallow water, and they came to deep water and divide it into 2, and even make the terminal end at 50,000 barrels per day. That was a violation of fiscal rules of general application. They should have had the 3 tranches in deep water, go from 0 to 50,000 as one royalty scheme, go from 50,000 to 100,000 as the second tranche, and anything about 10,000 and 100,000 will be 10%. But they balked, they were deceived. And guess what? You give them a very promising deep water commercial terms, they began to move away from shallow water and onshore. And this is where good governance comes in. And that's where transformational leadership comes in. And that's where ethical behavior comes in. We must always keep austerity. Well, thank you. I seem to be doing well. I have just a few more minutes. to get to 305. I'm very disappointed. Just on time, very unusual. What are my conclusion and observation, ladies and gentlemen? One, TIA 2021 has been designed to resolve the unintended consequences of each of the Quadrilemma dimensions. Now I'm using negative word. TIA is there to promote efficiency. Take inefficiency out of the oil and gas sector to promote doing things the right way without compromising doing things right. It is going to remove, if properly implemented, ineffectiveness. It's going to also remove inequity in the oil and gas business. And there will be no appearance of unethical business practice among professionals. That means somebody will not write the proposal and you give it to your friend to execute, even though that your friend, all the person who wrote the proposal, come and execute it for him. That's unethical. That's unethical. The implementation strategy of the TIA provision must essentially promote industry solution that we optimize industry efficiency, institutional effectiveness, stakeholders, equity, and justice, and business professional ethics. Listen, if the people implementing the TIA will follow these strategic objectives through strategic thinking and not ad hoc, the resources in Nigeria will take us, even in the energy transition era. But if we keep pursuing individual prosperity because you know someone who makes you the head and you don't take opportunity to make sure that your headship adds value to the society, so we look back and regret it. So the consequences of the Quadrilemma in the petroleum sector on energy availability, energy accessibility, energy affordability are quite common in Nigeria today because of the prebendalistic way in which we continue to pick our are basically transactional. But the PI implementation has given us the opportunity to forget the yesteryears. And I hope whoever again God allows to be president take some of these things we're saying for the sake of the younger generation. You see, there's no young person now that give an opportunity to go abroad that will not run. I was in this when people will defend their dissertation, they will pack their load and they want to run on. Like Quadrilemma, who left the luxury of life in North America to come to NMPC in research and development. Like Professor Falade, who left the luxury of working in Texaco to come and build capacity. That's not the case now. Every young person wants to run away. Finally, conceptually, my friends, TIA framers disallow political expediency. They disallow prebendalism and they disallow elitism. And they set a framework to promote technical and resource allocative efficiency in the post-PIA era. Effective manpower development at the PIA institution. It's just that the transition team did not take attention. It would have been the responsibility of the PIA to look at those folded departments and institutions and reallocate what we call open resource. That's what the oil and gas industry does normally. They do. We didn't. We allow this institution to continue to behave as if they are, because they are the principal, like DPR now is thinking that the Petroleum Commission is equivalent to him. That is baloney. The Petroleum Commission is completely different way it is set up from DPR. And for DPR to assume that they have to continue the business as usual approach, it's just business as usual. And the same thing with please don't get me wrong. Huh? I'll say what I think. The food that the frog will eat, God will not put it on the tree. Some of us have to sacrifice to tell it as it is. If we don't get contact with them, so be it. If we do the right thing. Transparency and accountability is so mandated. Yeah. And that's why, like Ghana did, what they call the PIAC, that's what they call them, who will always be after all of this institution to make sure they do what the law. I challenge the Nigerian non-government organization to do the right. And that's what Emmanuel Boga Foundation for Policy Advocacy is willing to do. We just need seed money to do the right thing. I have 1 minute over my time, and this is regrettable. PWI sees a business as usual implementation strategy that is completely at variance, in my opinion, PIA 2021 framers. I wish I had a video to show you when these 12 people were framing the petroleum industry governance bill. What we have in the implementation of this institution thus far, from PIA's, PWI's perspective, nothing more than business as usual. Looks more to me like putting a new wine in an old wine bottle. And this may be critically consequential in the post-PIA era. We can still retrieve. If the people that have been saddled with the responsibility will sit down and find people who understand the PIA to put people through on the framers' intention, I think Nigeria will be better. Okay. Perhaps PWI perspective as expressed thus far is wrong, but I will tell. And as time is correct. Thank you very much. And with a lot less work of Nigerian professionals in SPE. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so very much, Professor. It's always a pleasure, and it's always enlightening to hear you speak on topical issues as they affect our industry. Just a quick summary, things that really struck me, when you started by mentioning the unparalleled potential of the oil and gas sector, and also highlighting key components, governance, licensing, administration, the host communities, and fiscal framework. Right. And now diving down and, talking about the Quadrilemma itself around the concept of equity, effectiveness, ethics, and efficiency, highlighting the need for strong manpower development and transformational leadership to be led by a shared vision. And all of this put together made a very amazing and enlightening presentation for myself. While your presentation was going on, I noticed there was up by Dr. Zainab Gabir, which I want to believe is the Executive Director of the Midstream Downstream Regulatory Authority. So I'll just have had the floor now to make a comment or ask a question. Madam, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, ma'am.
Oh, good afternoon, Professor. Thank you so much for such a wonderful job on the paper. We appreciate you. And I wanted to give you the assurance from the authority that our boss is very, very interested in harmonizing the 3 agencies that were brought together. 1, 2, he's very youth driven, and we follow policies and rules. I mean, that's our Bible of the day, every day, to ensure that there's justice, equity, and transparency. I appreciate the panelists and the program facilitators for allowing us and inviting us to speak in this program. I'll go ahead and drop my email address. So hopefully, anyone that needs it could pick it up and we move forward from this. But it's a great honor to be a part of you, and assure you that NMDPRA is going to do what's best for the nation and what's best for the youths, most especially. Thank you very much, sir, and have a wonderful day.
So, Prof, do you want to respond to that?
Oh, no, I thought it just, I think she made a comment that they understand the importance of justice, fairness, and so on. Well, I don't doubt the fact that they would study what the PIA had in mind for the authority. And of course, originally, the concept was supposed to have been a single regulator, because at that particular time, we thought that the capacity was not there to manage two regulators. But political expediency calls for double regulator. That is the law now. And the only thing I want to say is that I have this agreement with the authority's perception that this was a merger. It was not a merger. The authority was created from scratch. And the other agency that existed before was scrapped. The only thing that they wanted to do is to transfer useful materials from the other agency, and some of them should have even been sent to the ministry if you don't want to sack them. And some of them could have even taken from PPRA and sent to other agencies. To me, the conceptual framework was not merger at all. No. And that's what I want to continue to. They can read it, we can debate it. The authority has a completely different responsibility. They did not cut the responsibility of PPRA and paste it as the authority. The original conceptualization of the authority component of the Petroleum Commission. The same thing with the Petroleum Commission. They did not just cut all of the former DPR responsibility and paste it. No, they were from the scratch in the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, debated. And that's what I want to suggest, that don't look at you as a market and say somebody says GM from equalization, and all of a sudden now they brought him to the authority and he thinks he has to retain his GM position. That was what was wrong. Whereas somebody who was manager in authority is doing far better job than the GM you brought from, or the manager you brought from DPR downstream is now reporting to a GM from Petroleum Equalization Fund. You see, that is one of the biggest challenges that the chief executive that is transformation must put to rest, so as not to create what I call inequity.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Please, I'd want to clarify that, if you don't mind, Prof. The point I'm trying to make here is it is a brand new organization. It's what you call a startup, right? But yes, we inherited staff from other defunct agencies because we didn't want anybody to lose their jobs. Now, the 3 defunct agencies were operating they had 3 different job schedules, right? So now, which means they will have different cultures and they have different familiarity. So what we must do in the authority is be realistic and bring everybody to this new agency with one voice, getting them to leave what they had in the past and move on with what the authority is designed to do. That's what I was just trying to explain. So you have to come to terms that there has to be that harmonization in terms of culture, in terms of schedule of duty, in terms of policy, in terms of expectation, in terms of deliverables. So, we have to be realistic that they're coming from different part of the energy life cycle. So now we have to bring everybody into the life cycle and start to swim together. That's what I'm trying to say. Not that we're continuing where we left off. No, the authority is a brand new agency. For example, I didn't work in any of the, as an executive director, I didn't come in from any of the defunct agencies. You know, I came into the authority as a new person. So it's the same thing for everybody, but we have to blend the culture so we work together as a team. We're not gonna pretend like there's no different cultures or different understanding or previously different job function. It's new for all of us and we will make it happen. So I was just trying to give you that assurance that the togetherness is there, the transparency is there, the teamwork is there, and understanding the magnitude of work we have to do to deliver to Nigerians. It is there and we're capable of making it happen with support from people like you that will steer us in the right direction if for whatever reason you feel we're deviating. But I assure you that we're not so far. Thank you.
Thank you.
I understand you.
All right, thank you, Dr.
Let me just say something, Madam. I certainly agree with your perspective. We're on the same page. What the difference is that I'm a professor of what ought to be. You are pragmatism. All I'm doing is tell you what ought to be as an insider. You are telling me what is, and I agree with you. Just think about Chevron and Texaco merger. The dominating culture is Chevron today. Think about ExxonMobil merger. The dominating culture is ExxonMobil. So what I'm trying to say is, all you guys that are supposed to do this, create a new culture as indicated in PIA. And I'm glad you are doing that. Thank you very much for being the participant in this.
God bless you. Thank you, sir. And I hope you take my contact down so we can share ideas and talk further. I like to learn. So it'd be an honor to have your contact and continue the relationship.
Oh, I'm a public person. Just even type my name on the internet, see my contact. Anytime, sir.
All right. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Dr. Gobir, for making time out of your busy schedule to be part and also participating in this conversation. I mean, I think this little exchange that just happened has been very enlightening to many of us and has also provided insight to perceptions and also correcting probably perception that people may have had about what is going on in the authority correctly. Thank you very much, Madam, for your time. I also noticed that Professor Chidi Ibe has his hand up, so I will yield the floor to him to make his comment or ask his question. Professor, the floor is yours, sir. Professor? Okay. While we wait for Professor Chidi Ibe, I also noticed Mr.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I have unmuted myself now. Can I talk?
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Professor.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. Just to congratulate my colleague and good friend, Professor Ladere, for a breathtaking expose on the PIA. It's not surprising that he had his little finger, or a little more than that, in crafting the PIA. And these are the basic truths about the PIA. Essentially, we need to recognize that the establishments that have been entrenched in the PIA are new establishments. They would have inherited staff and certain structures from existing agencies, but they are new and have their roles clearly defined. And whoever is coming into these structures as defined in the PIA have to conform. And I'm quite enthused by the exchange between Professor Ladere and I think is the ED of the authority, but that's the way to go. The only other thing to say is that there is a whole lot of expertise beyond the boundaries of these newly created establishments. So it is necessary, even imperative, that a core of expertise, beginning with people like Iladere, between people like Ajainka out there in Port Harcourt, should form a core of advisors, formal, informal, who are looking from the outside at these establishments and providing guidance in terms of expertise and advice. I think it is necessary. We're all Nigerians. We have core interests in what is going on, and we have abiding commitment to the success of the PIA, because that is the future of this country if well implemented. So there is a lot of advice, a lot of expertise on the periphery of the formal establishments waiting to be tapped and should be tapped. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you so much, Professor Chidibe, as always, for providing us an amazing insight in the conversation we're having. I think for me, one of the very critical takeaways from all of this is the necessity for collaboration beyond, the established agencies, tapping into the knowledge in the academia and other stakeholders within the sector. I think Professor highlighted the need for a shared vision. Once we're able to align on that shared vision, it'll be easy to have conversations, and conversations will be targeted and will definitely improve the industry and move the industry forward. While we were having that comment from Professor Ibe, Mr. Joe Wanke has his hand up. I will yield the floor to him also to make his comment. Mr. Wanke. Mr. Joe Wanke.
It's okay. Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just wanted to say thank you to Prof for such an articulate view. For some of us who were involved in that process for a long time, I think it's clear that there is a significant departure from intent, if you think about where we are today. But I needed to highlight especially the need for speed in implementation. I think that we are in a very bad place. The implementation of the PIB needs to gain some traction. It's moving at such a pace today that I think if we continue on this trajectory, we may not be able not just staying within the initial framework or thought process, but it's equally important in implementation that whether it's in the upstream, midstream, or the downstream, there are challenges that need urgent. Everybody understands today, for instance, that in the downstream, we are having some scarcities all over. Want pay for transporting or bridging products across the country. And all of this need to be addressed within that framework of basically deregulating the product. So there are concerns, there are issues that need to be dealt with. So the supply side is a problem. The distribution is a problem in the downstream. And then, of course, if you go all the way back to the upstream, there are significant challenges. So I think that I just wanted to say that it's important that we gain speed. It's very, very important. We need to move fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Owakwe. Thank you for sharing your insights on this subject. I think this is why we have this sort of conversations where multiple stakeholders can come and share their thoughts on topical issues and provide what could be necessary solutions to address challenges that we're currently facing. Oh, sorry, just to remind us that the floor is still open for comments and contributions, so you might just decide to do so by raising your hand. So while we wait for that questions, I would like to take questions from the chat box. Professor Iledare, a question came in and I'll read it for your response. It says, what did the framers of the PIA have in mind with MOPI? I'm guessing this means Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated as a corporation sole. Does that not limit the ability of MOPI to be nothing more than a special purpose vehicle solely for the purpose of holding NNPC Limited for the government? So, Prof, would you want to take that before I read the second one?
Thank you very much. Again, I don't want to be asked, we have a law now, but the intention, they left certain things of the original bill where this MOPI came from. But that particular bill has a time framework for which government shares NNPC Limited disposed of. So it was not supposed to be a very old, permanently government share. And that's what I meant, but it's just unfortunate. And again, you have to be careful. So I don't call this a sin. I don't want to go into talk. But you see, when you cut and paste without necessarily, we were working with the government to make sure that everything is in alignment until March 2021, when the group that IC pull out. And there was no effort because those groups were not many, were only 6 in that particular group, that federal executive team, to harmonize some of this so that the intention of the framers were properly. So that was it. In fact, there's also Ministry of Finance incorporated as well. They are just to be a way to follow the timetable. I don't think the timetable is no longer in PIA now as to when to dispose that 100% that MFI and MOPI were holding until the time it will be disposed. And let me quickly also answer another question that I'm there from Ibrahim Musa. Section 44 and 25, the nature of the Ministry of Petroleum of Nigerian petroleum industry, and further went ahead to ensure the newly established institutions have special provision to ensure the independence from undue external interference. However, the policy-making aspect of PIA, as can be clearly observed, did not firstly recognize the Minister of Petroleum as an institution, and then they recognize the Minister as a person. There's no mention of the Minister of Petroleum as an institution. No special provision for funding the crucial activities of the ministry aspect. Does this not leave the policy-making aspect of the PIA in a weak state? I agree with you that the critical aspect is the policy formulation, which was left into the hand of the Minister of Petroleum. Again, it presupposes that whoever is the Minister of Petroleum will be able to know that he has to rebrand. Let's take all the previous ministers. The good work that Kachiku did was because of the specialties that he had, which was actually funded by Foster, the foreign aid. It is not that the framers did not want to. Have you ever had to fight the public service and the civil servants on anything? Have you ever been able to win? And that's why the Minister of Petroleum is what it is. The Minister of Petroleum can still find a way to fund, but I agree with you, in the original PIB 2008, there was a creation of what we call the National Petroleum Directorate, with about 5 cents per dollar from a barrel to fund the policy institution. But the minister can still, if he wants, engage institutions that we build the capacity in the Ministry of Petroleum. And I think there's something going on in which they're trying to review the professional salary. It is, in my opinion, disappointing that you are paying people in authority, people in commission, even people in PTDF, commensurate salary with NMPC, but the people that will develop the policy are given peanuts. How can they be effective, efficient, and ethical in the profession? But I'm glad now that there's a review of their salary. But you have to go beyond that. You need to stop posting people that have no value to add. How on earth do you want permanent secretary of the Ministry of Petroleum not to understand an industry as important as petroleum in policy formulation? Can you just post a sociology to go and be the director of monetary policy in central bank or Ministry of Finance? Again, that's what I said when I talk about petrodollars, prebendalism, and what I call political expediency. They are the key problem generating inefficiency, ineffectiveness, unethical behavior in the oil and gas sector. Until you put professionals here in Ghana, the chief director in charge of petroleum is the professor of geology. So that's what I say, that the PIA expects a rebranding, a reclaiming, and a reformation and restructuring of the Ministry of Petroleum. By the way, it was not that it was not debated in the PIGB that we should be making reference to the institution and not a person. And of course, pragmatism always trumps what ought to be. That's my opinion. I stand corrected anytime.
Thank you so much, Prof, for that very elaborate response to the question from Mr. Ibrahim Suleiman. I think for me, this has been a very great and wonderful and very expository conversation around the implementation of the PIA. And like the section chair said in our remarks, we expected a refreshing take on these topical issues, and Professor Adu delivered just that. I think on a parting note, I think that the PIA is a work in progress, and opportunities are going to be there for us to make these tweaks. However, those opportunities will come from conversations like this. We won't get tired of having these conversations, and we hope that those that have the power to make the necessary changes to ensure that the PIA delivers on its intended objectives are here, they're paying attention, they're listening, and they're taking into account what this living legend has just spoken about. While that was going on, a question came from someone who says, please, does PIA have a role to play in the upstream industry? I think yes, it does. I mean, I don't think that needs to be answered by Professor. I think to answer quickly, yes, it does have a role to play in the upstream industry. And okay, there's another question for you, Doc. Dr. Nasir Tukur here typed in the chat box that says, Prof, if you were in charge of NMDPRA, what would you do to ensure full implementation of PIA as it affects your organization? Doc, I think people are considering you for a political appointment, so I think you should take this question really seriously.
That's your question again.
Okay, Dr. Tukur in the chat box asked that if you were in charge of NMDPRA, that's the authority now, what would you do to ensure full implementation of PIA as it affects your organization?
Thank you very much. Good question. But this is hypothetical. I'm sorry to say I'm not interested. I prefer the external advisor. But if I'm going to advise the chief executive for free right now, I would begin with manpower development. And again, as a transformational leader, you must do what it takes to deliver the key performance that I said before you. And it begins with manpower deployment and development. That would be the first thing I would do. I will look at what I'm supposed to accomplish. And I'm not going to allow favoritism to put somebody who's not competent in any position. It's a hard thing to do. And I've done it before. I'm telling you, it's not something that I've not done. Even here in Ghana, I'm doing it. In my institution, I did it in Port Harcourt. The moment you have the person you there, Vice Chancellor that brought me to Port Harcourt gave me what it takes to run my institute for 5 years, and we deliver. And I always tell my students, I'm not looking for adulation from you, because what I have, you cannot take away. So, and that's why the chief executive must work in team. That's what I would do. If I were heading any of those institutions, I would consider myself a transformational shared vision. I won't even need to do anything. I'll just point each of the component units, what their responsibilities are, and I'll make sure that I meet them regularly, look at their challenges, and look at their limitations, and I'll just provide leadership. The leader does not need to do anything. It's because you are too much concerned with institutional capture, regulatory capture, and political capture. That's why every leader wants to be micromanaging instead of take on top and make sure that you make your people do what they are supposed to do and then believe in them. That's what I would do if I'm heading on. I look for the best.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Professor, for that elaborate response.
And luckily, glory to God for that.
Okay, Professor. Thank you for that very elaborate response to Dr. Tuko's question. Sorry, we didn't hear that, Doctor. Okay, Prof, are you still saying something?
No, I said I can be external advisor, not internal advisor.
Okay, Prof, I'm sure that's well taken. Thank you so much, Prof, for your elaborate presentation and your responses to the questions and inquiries from all participants. Let me go back to the chat box to say, oh, there are still a couple of questions. I think we'll take this round and move on. I think if we leave this open, we will not close this session today. So a question from Prof says, congratulations for the wonderful presentation. My question, what is or are the expected roles of indigenous technology in the successful implementation of the PIA?
Oh, excellent question. And this is where one must commend the National Content Monitoring Board in Yenagoa. They are doing a good job with respect to doing what they have been called upon to do. And that's what I call transformational leadership, shared vision. And the board has been very lucky for the two executives they've had thus far. And they're not perfect, but they've made. And this is where the educational sector becomes important. The institution, the tertiary institutions are where ideas are generated. And competency is key. We have so many political expediency to some people have vice chancellor today who should never have smelled being the vice chancellor of the university, except they invoke their ethnicity. We need to find a way to move away from that. The university is where ideas are generated. And the interaction between the university, the industry, and the government is very critical if we are going to be able to do what PIA wants us to do. Listen, the university is where idea is generated. The government and business use the tools that only universities possesses, and the cheapest labor to have are graduate students in the university. And that's why in Nigeria of today, if not because it has become umbe, nobody should ever pay to get a doctor of philosophy in a university at the level of our development. Then we move away from all of that. Well, listen, I don't want to say a lot of things because it's very aching the way we've reduced our system to be local instead of universal, where you go to a class in the university and they are all from the same area. The professors are from the same area. The lecturers are from the same area. We have to move away from that. If we want to develop our university system must be away from a lot of things. Paying somebody the same salary irrespective of their discipline is killing to hard work. So that's where to do, where we have to start. Decentralized planning is not good for the economy. Just that some people are benefiting from it. In this current generation, centralized, even in China, you can see the negative impact. I hope I answered the question, but the university is where the indigenous schools are dominated, and the NCDMB is doing a good job making funds available for artisans to be able to develop their talent.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor. I think we'll take one final question. Any further questions can be sent via email. I will make sure to relay it to Prof. The last question which we'll be taking for today would be from Admin, who says, there have been excitement and optimism. Oh, one more question came in. So please, I crave your indulgence. I'll take the two last questions. I'll call it a day with respect to questions. There have been excitement. The first one, Professor, is that there have been excitement and optimism in many quarters since the signing of the PIA, that PIA will do some magic and turn the Nigerian economy and oil and gas industry around. Who, as an expert, do you think this expectation might see the light of the day? The second question is, Prof, what do you think is responsible for the delay in the implementation of the PIA? What's the implication for the industry this year and to the nation in general? So I think with that, Prof, we close the question and answer. I'll follow your responses to those.
Thank you. These are legitimate questions, and I don't have a crystal ball. I just offer what I call it. The very first question with optimism. And what very, very optimistic about what PI can do, despite the bunglement of the original idea. Where I have problem is the implementation. I think, and again, I commend the president for signing it, but the president was ill-advised the way the PIB was originally implemented. First, the PIA should have been, the allocation of resources should have been left in the hand of the transition team. They should have been the one to guide, develop the framework, even advise on who could be chairman of the board, members of the board, and so on and so forth. I don't want to be mentioning them because I don't want to have anybody to have a bad feeling about me, where then it becomes more or less like a slot that people are feeling to move people from one place to the other. That was not the original intention. The transition team should have been able to be the one at the key responsibility. And that's one of the reasons why you see the delay in implementation. Because most of the people cannot just hit the ground and run. Because the experience, and I'm sorry to say, are shallow. So they need to, first of all, the same thing that you saw in NERC in those days, that till today, they have not been able to master Nigeria electric regulatory responsibility effectively. And I hate to say that, do not want that to happen in the Petroleum Commission. And that's why they need to buckle themselves up, recognize their weaknesses, get those retired competent periodically. I spoke sometimes not too far away with respect to the guy in authority was telling me that you cannot develop a regulation without public hearing. And public hearing should not be by invitation. Public hearing should be open unless you want expert witnesses to come and testify to support or argue against it. Now, the implementation looks slow, and I understand why. Because the time frame to implement it, people were not prepared, but decided to implement it. Believe you me, nearly all of them, with the exception of mentioning, was actually involved in the writing of the PIA. Well, they have to study it to be able to implement it. So we have to be patient. Unfortunately, the optics, we call it public perception index, was the good. There could not be homogeneous advisor in an heterogeneous society. It will lead to disaster. You must allow information dissenting, and the transformational leader will then make a judgment, live and die with it. I want the implementation to speed up, but the three institutions are the key. And I'm not sure they are aware of that. I think what they are doing is business as usual approach. But this thing requires strategic thinking. I must not hate people criticizing the slowness of you. You need to bring them on the table and ask them. Luckily for me, I'm first. So people like us are supposed to point out. Let those who are supposed to do it go and do it. They can call us on the phone and we'll tell them. But that basically is. I'm very optimistic. I pray to God that the implementers will understand the onus that is put on them, because Venezuela experience is knocking on the door. Industry in Nigeria cannot end up being like Venezuela industry. PIA has offered us the chance, and I'm optimistic about it. Implementers better beware. No business as usual strategy. It won't deliver us. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Prof. The last question was, what do you think is responsible for the delay in implementation of the PIA? What's the implication for the industry and to the nation in general? That'll be the final question, sir.
Well, I think I have so many. I can understand the slowness, and I already mentioned that to you. Even the board, and you look at the commission, it's only recently that the executive board has been fully constituted. In fact, if you really look at the reality of it, partial constitution of the board does not empower anybody to do anything. No, because the board must ratify certain policy, and they have just been constituted. So there's supposed to have been a transition period to put them on the ground and running. It is the way it was. Like, are you complaining, my friend? It took us 20 years, from 2000 to 2021 before the bill was. So we need to take time to make sure that we do the right thing. I don't like some of the pronouncements that I hear that they are making without proper analysis and consequences of it. And that's why I challenge the Petroleum Commission. Don't think as if you are DPR. Because nearly every decision is made recently is the way DPR will behave. My opinion. And you need to let go of your DPR mentality and be a commission that you are. And those are some of the things that are more difficult. They need to take away the old mentality so that they can move faster. But I guess the old mentality is impeding them. In my opinion, no, I'm just saying it as it is. Let the old mentality, because the way they are doing things now is as if they apply a new one and they are trying to pocket in a new bottle. It's not going to work.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your amazing presentation and for taking time out to answer these questions quite elaborately. I'm sure I speak for a lot of the attendees when I say that we've gained quite a lot. But before we end this session, I noticed that Dr. Gover has a hand up again. I want to, is this recent, or is this still, from the last round of conversation? Dr. Gover?
It's recent. I want to challenge Professor a bit.
All right, ma, please, within 1 minute. Thank you.
Sure. Professor, sir, I wanted to challenge two major things. The first one was when you said the qualification. Have you had enough time to go through the qualification of those that were brought on board to where you could come up with the judgment of the right people might not have been put in the right place? And then secondly, you had discussed business as usual strategy. Could you please avail me some thought process of what you think the strategies should be? Because I, for one, am a out-of-the-box thinker, and I happen to be in charge of strategies here. So I would like some of your ideas. Let's look through them and then see what we get out of them. But I'd like to sincerely and humbly disagree with you on the qualification of all of us, the EDs and the executive commissioners. Thank you.
But please don't take what I said personal. Don't take what I say personally. And again, I try to avoid some of this because you can speak well over a long time. Some of you may just say one thing that really makes the statement difficult. What I only said was that you have to take time to understudy some of your responsibility, because you cannot just hit the ground and running when they are appointed to this type of position, because you blow it. And then maybe if I take it to mean that I say you are not qualified, no, that is, they will not appoint you if you are not qualified. So, because qualification has different definitions, what it takes for them to have appointed. If you take that wrongly, consider it to be a mistake of the head and not of the heart. And of course, with respect to some of the things that have been done by the two authorities that are completely, in my opinion, not entirely has it, I think I've already sent you my email. You're welcome to contact me, and I will lay them down to you one after the other. I mean, there's nothing. I'm the monitor. Because the industry is dear to my heart. The industry made me who I am, and I cannot afford it to collapse, irrespective of consequences or that I bear because I speak my mind. But I don't mean to insult the people that are appointed. As some of my own are appointed, if I say anything like that, I will tell my own boy that is not qualified. I just said that you will need time to study it. That's what I apologize.
Thank you for the clarification. I'll definitely get in touch with you on the strategies. You get an email from me because I love to learn, and you being a professor, you would add to the success factor, like you said, because it's an industry you're passionate about. I love people that are honest. So no, I didn't take it personal. I just wanted to call your attention to it. So it's okay. But I'll literally get in touch with you and rub minds, please, so that we deliver with deliver the best to Nigeria. Thank you and God bless you, Prof.
Everybody in your building, I used to be a frequent visitor to all of these that regulate the oil and gas industry or develop policy. It's only recently that I see that. I'm 70 years old. Whoever wants to call me, I will. If you call me, I will answer you. Because,
thank you, sir. I surely will. I promise you that. Thank you.
Yes, I know very many of you work at the Association for Energy Economics, and we have many members. Anytime, please.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. Thank you so very much, Prof, for once again. This is the third time I'm thanking you. Hopefully, no unforeseen events happen again that will make us come back to asking you more questions. I think for us, as an overarching takeaway from this beautiful conversation that we've had, is that the PI is law, and it may not be perfect, but all the necessary ingredients are there to move this industry forward. We would always try to use forums like this to, I like to liken it like a smartphone. When you buy your $1,000 smartphone, almost over the lifetime of the smartphone, you keep making upgrades, you keep upgrading the software based on correct reality. So I want to say I want to liken the PIA to that. I may not be the necessary ingredients to move this industry forward are there. And as the industry evolves, I know that we'll be seeing changes and we'll be making those changes necessary to make the law more robust and for it to serve its intended purpose. Thank you once again, Prof, for your time, your patience, and your elaborate responses to the questions raised and comments raised by participants. We hope you always avail us your expertise anytime we call upon you to do that. Thank you very much, all the participants, for your patience. And I would like to hand over at this juncture to Akpan to continue with the conversation. Thank you, Akpan.
Thank you very much, Abdurafi. Of course, you're one of our very best moderators. Thank you so much. We can give Abdurafi a virtual round of applause. Thank you so much, sir. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to wrap up this event in 10 minutes. Of course, time is fast spent. I'd like to introduce you to the Society of Petroleum Engineers. You enjoyed this session, so this is a clarion call that please, you join SPE. Most importantly, join SPE Abuja section. Of course, our main focus is sharing technical knowledge, which has to do with the exploration of gas. And of course, for new membership, it's 29,200 Naira. And for renewal, it's just 24,400 Naira. We have a display on your screen. You can call Dr. Ikechiko Kafo, our membership chair, with the number there. And of course, he will direct you on how to be a member of SP Abuja section. Should you have some inquiries, should you have messages or questions for the section, our section email has been projected there, spabuja section info@gmail.com. We are on all social media platforms. This recording is live on YouTube. Our past event is also on YouTube. You can always go back to refresh your minds. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and of course, Gmail, we are all live. We have some exciting events coming up soon. We have the short courses for the NAIS, which comes up from July 30th to July 31st, live at Eco Hotel and Suite. Amazing instructors. You must not miss this short course. We advise that you should visit our social media pages for more information, or you register on naissbnigeriancouncil.org/courses. Talking about NAIS, live on this event, we have a conference chair who joined for this event. I speak of Mr. Michael Oyere. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We also have Magdalene Umar, who is a Warri Programs Chair from Warri Section. And of course, Engineer Joe Nwakwe, who is a BOT member who joined this meeting. The NAIS conference, which is the biggest flagship program of the SP Nigerian Council, comes up August 1st to 3rd, 2022 at Eco Hotels and Suites in Lagos. you are invited. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I would like to round up this event by most respectfully calling on Engineer Joe Nwakwe, who is the partner, Zera Advisory and Consulting, and also a member of the BOT of SP Nigerian Council, for a closing remark. So please, the future stage is yours for your closing remarks, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Chapman. I would like to start by thanking Prof again for his insight, and more importantly, for his commitment to Nigeria. I know how he feels about the country and how we discuss how we can make this place a far better country than it is. I encourage him to continue to push. I think we'll get there someday. I would like to thank everyone else. Madam Gobert, right? I thank you for joining. This is really impressive. I'm happy you did join. Let's keep talking. I think we'll all get better with time. I'd like to thank Abuja Session for putting this together. Amina and company. You guys are doing a marvelous job. We are very proud of the work you do. I would like to thank everyone else that has joined and all those that ask questions. Continue to send your questions if you do have them to the session. They will get it to Prof and he will provide answers. So on behalf of SPE, Abuja and Nigeria, I say thank you to all of you for joining us. Have a very beautiful evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And of course, to end the session, I most kindly request that we turn on our video cameras for a quick snapshot. And of course, this is the time for networking. This is the time to network. So kindly turn on your microphones and of course, network. Thank you. Okay.
Hello, Prof. Okay.
So when I say SPE, we say oil and gas. Sorry, participants, attendees may not be able to participate in this. We are so sorry. SPE.
Oil and gas.
Thank you so much.
And is it possible to allow participants to take part in this? Can you unlock it? I think it's important for us to network.
Okay, let me try to unmute all of them.
Unmute and allow video.
Okay.
Good evening, sir.
Is that Abdurrahman? Who am I speaking with? Abdul?
Yes, sir.
How now?
Fine, thank you, sir. How are you, sir?
Well done, good job.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
How is the ministry?